Hey guys, welcome back to the Some of the YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a simple illustration of a cake with a cherry on top and which has some icing and jam on top of it. And we're going to primarily use the pen tool to make this illustration. So this is a great way for you to learn how to get more equipped with using the pen tool more like regularly. But I will also tell you about how you can combine other tools that we really need when we are using the pen tool, because you really need to think of the pen tool as like an individual tool which needs its brethren to work together. It's like seamlessly. Not every time you make a curve it will come out looking exactly as you had in mind. So having a knowledge of other tools as well that you can use in combination with that will help you. Let me just give you a run through. Let's just establish some rules. So number one thing, if you click on your sheet once and then drag it, you can make a straight line anywhere that you want. Let's say I'll just put it out here. So now we made a thin blue line, which is pretty straight. If you just click on it once and then hold down shift and then move this up and down in a circle, you will create increments of 45 degrees for your pen tool. So you can make it here, then you can make a 90-degree angle, and then you can make another 90-degree angle. Okay, so that's how you would do straight lines. And so then you can just make any kind of straight line however you want as you go about it. What you can do is, let's say you want to close this curve, just connect the last point to the first point and you have closed this shape. Let's say you don't want to do that, you can just press escape. Okay, so now this is an incomplete shape, but you can still use fill color to add some color to it. So that's how you would work with straight lines when it comes to pen tool. Not curved line is where we had the tricky bit. So let's just click on it once again, and now press again
with your left mouse button
and drag. Okay, now you can drag it in any shape just like we did previously. Okay, any shape around the point, you can drag it around in any direction. Now if you press down shift, this will become increments of 45 degrees just like we had with the straight line. Okay, so let's say you can do that. So as I said, so for pen tool, if you right click on there, you'll have the anchor point tool now, which it has a short shift. Let's see. Okay, so what we can do with the anchor point tool is just, you see these two anchor points that come out when you use, when you make the pen tool, so you make a curve. You can use the anchor tool to just move these around. Okay, just like this, and they will move around individually. Okay, and then if you click on it again, if you click and drag it again, it will make it back to a curve. And then again, if I click on it, it'll be a straight line. So let's say I don't want my next line to be a curve, because if we have extended the arms like this, the next point will be a curve as well. So in that case, what you would do is click on it again, and then just again, if you want, you can put it as a straight line, just like that. Now if you want it as a curved line, again, as we had done it before, click once and then drag. If you hold down shift, you can make a straight line. Next thing I want you to know is we can make very simple shapes when it comes to the pen tool. Okay, let's make one which is simple and easy. Let's make a circle. Click once, then drag. Click once and then drag. Make sure you press shift so it's straight. Click one. I think this is the only one thing that I don't like about it, is that I don't know whether it's at the same point or not. Click once and drag. Click once and drag. Click once and drag. So we have made our closed curve using a basic understanding of the pen tool. Okay, from what we have learned. Now we can easily make circles. One of the more difficult things that you can make with the pen tool is a heart, and I have a way to do this. So start by a 1 point. Okay, just click 1 point, straight line, go diagonally. Click, press once and then drag. Make sure you press shift when you drag so it's a straight line. There you go. Then take any point around here, and if you press shift, it will give you a straight line from this point. Okay, I'll click, yeah, I think roughly this point. Click here and then drag again. I'm pressing shift while I do this, and then I will reach the original point. So I made a closed curve, which is a half heart. What I'll do is copy it and then paste it on the same point. You do that by Control C for copy and then Control Shift V for paste on the same point. And then on the right side under the transform panel, just change the reference point from the middle to the right and then flip it. So when I try and flip it, so now I get a heart shape. Obviously I didn't make it correctly because I still make mistakes. I will just close the gap in between and use the shape builder tool to just put them together and remove any extra shapes. What do you think? Do you like my attempt at this heart? So these are kind of like a simple way to do this. So if we can do straight lines with this, we can do curved lines with this, just like that. And I think, and then let's say if you want to do straight line, curved line, curved, curved, and then if you want to do straight, click once. If you want to do curve, again, drag. And then here, if you want to do a straight, just make sure you press Alt and then click here in order to have a straight line again. And then again, just connect it together. It's just some simple rules before we start illustration. The more you use this, the more you'll get more confident at using these at different points. Now we're gonna make this vector illustration, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna try on multiple tools in order to make this illustration. So it's gonna be super beginner friendly. So one of the things that I really like about this is the shapes are simple. So a straight line, curves, and then more curves here, and then a lot of like different colors that we can use. We also gonna make this blobby bit around here, make some stylized ruffles around here. So I have made this sketch. I made this sketch to use as a guideline, and you can do this either if you have a tablet, you can do that on your tablet. If you have a notebook, you can do that as well. I kind of move from back and forth from either. Sometimes I feel like paper gives me a better flow when I'm drawing or sketching something, compared to other times when I have better flow on my tablet. It really depends. So yeah, choose whichever you think works better for you. So this is what we're gonna make. This is the inspiration, and this is the sketch I made for it. So let's get started. Okay, we're gonna move this. We're gonna make this small. We don't really care too much about this. Most important for this is this sketch. Okay, we're gonna change the opacity to multiply. I'm gonna decrease it down very low. We don't need too much of it. We just need it to use as a basic guideline. And then what I'm gonna do, put it on top, and then lock the layer. Okay, and lock the also layer for the background. I always like to have a background color. First thing when I will tell you is try to keep things like as simple as possible, right? So start from the middle, right here in the middle. I'm gonna start my point right here. Click on it once. Okay, click your sketch tool out once and then drag it out. Okay, and then move it here. Then you get to this point. Generally what I like to think of when using the pen tool is whenever you see a curve change direction, even just a little bit, that's where you should have your next point. Also try not to have too many points, because that will make it a bit tricky to make it look smooth. Okay, so yeah, let's do that. So here we have the curve, so I'm gonna add another curve here. Click once and then drag. Okay, we can adjust all these later on. Okay, so don't worry about it. Then come up here again, click and drag. So now we're using curve. It's like the curve feature of our pen tool. Okay, then like go back and click on this. Make sure you press Alt and then click on it here. So now when you do that, we can now create straight lines from it. So we kind of have broken the curvature tool. Now we will just use the straight line tool. Just click here once, then we have it once here, once here. Just keep going it as like a straight line tool. Okay, and here I'm pretty happy with it. And then now what I'll do, I'll move it back down here and click it back. So now we have closed our entire curve using the pen tool. You will see there's some issues here. You see there's some like jaggedy bits here. So what I will do is go select the direct selection tool. Okay, then I will drag and create this box around the points that I want selected. Okay, now you know how we use shapes and how we use align tool for shapes. You can do the same thing for points. Click on the align more option and then distribute spacing. Click on the horizontal distribute space equally, and now here we will have a very nicely shaped jaggedy bit. I'm going to do the same thing for vertical. Actually, no, I won't do that. I will select on the top points and then go back and do vertical align for all of them. Again, take the bottom points. Bottom points looks like this, select these, and then align them bottom. So now they're all aligned well. And then I'm gonna fill the shape up with a color, which in this case I would choose a nice yellow. Okay, So we have made 1/2 of this. Okay, what I'm going to do now, select it, Control copy, and then Control Shift V, which is paste. In the transform tool, come here and set your reference points to this rightmost point, and then flip it horizontally. So now we have made a symmetrical cake wrapper. Now when you select this and then go in the shape builder tool and combine this together, now you have one shape ready. Okay, so right now we're just going to block the shapes. So we have already made the wrapper. Okay, so one part done. You see in the next part, the wrapper has the cake inside it. Don't worry about being too accurate. We're just going for a very stylized look. Again, we're going to start with the pen tool. Come here, click on this point right here, and then you see there's a curve happening here. So I'm going to go, this is the start of the curve right here, and I'm going to go and drag it out just like that, and then move it again, try and get to the middle, click on it once, then go down and try and connect it back to my original point. Go on and change the color a bit to a darker brown, and then again I will choose to Control C and then Control Shift V, and then keeping the reference point on the right side, I will flip it. We're going to combine it next to make the cake, and then again we're going to send this back. So now we have our cake ready. It's right here. Okay, don't worry about the top part needing to be really round, because we're going to have the icing on top. So the reason I'm saying that maybe it might be a good way for you to just, you know, copy, like do one side and copy and paste on the other side, because oftentimes I feel like you don't need to do both sides. Okay, especially if the design is symmetrical, don't worry about making both sides. You can, if you want to complete the whole shape, but generally I think I just find it easier. And another thing is that you don't need to do this with the pen tool. In order to get the same shape, you can just use the elliptical tool. But in this case, because we're using the pen tool, this is one way to do this. Also, what I'm going to do next one is I'm not going to do that. Now we're going to go again with the pen tool. Or should we go with the curvature tool? Okay, let's try with the curvature tool, because I want you to feel confident with every tool that we have. Okay, so let's start with this curve point here. Okay, in the sketch. So I'm going to click here once. Now the curve tool already makes curves. It will make a predefined curve based on the points we make. So next time I'm seeing a curvature happening is here. So I'll put a curve here. Another way I'm seeing it is I'm going to put it in the middle, because the curve from going up now, it's going down. Similar to the point that we have around here. Again, at the curvature path. Okay, so now we have this point here. Next, we will select this middle point right here. And again, we're now back to our original point that we started with. So it gives you, when you're using the curvature tool, it gives you a very rounded curve compared to the pen tool, where you have to make sure that you are extending it out properly at different intervals. So the next whipping cream that we have made, I'm going to make again using the pen tool. So here we go again. I'm going to start with this point. Again, click on here, drag, point where it curves, drag again, middle point, because changing direction, right here again, drag it down. Again, we're at this point, so we can drag it a little bit, and then again at a last point I'll just drag it a little bit more to make the curvy bit on top. Okay, so now we have made our two shapes. They look very different, but you can see that I had more control when it came to the shape when I was using the pen tool. Obviously the pen tool I know is a bit more difficult to use than the curvature tool, so don't worry if you are having trouble with it. Just make sure you're practicing by using these simpler curvy designs. And you know, a lot of times it might be just easier to follow your sketches. A lot of this is going to be a lot of trial and error, but don't worry about it. The more you do this, the more you will feel confident, especially when it comes to the pen tool. And that's why I wanted to make sure that most of the tutorial is the pen tool, so you can just follow along with me. So the next thing we're going to do is a bit more difficult one, I think, but let's start with the simpler fruit in comparison, which is a cherry. So now the cherry is curved like this, but in my sketch I didn't do that, but we can visualize that. So we're going to start in the middle, drag it, come to the middle point, where it's changing the curve, drag it again. Now here is the tricky part. So I messed up now. I want to drag it just a little bit. I don't want to drag it too much. Come to the middle point where it's changing shape again as it's going up and then going down. So we're gonna make a tiny curve there. Gonna move over this hill again, make a tiny curve, and then reach this middle point. Again, a curve. Reach this point again in the middle, curve, and back down. So how you see, I felt a bit unsure about where I wanted to make the curves. Okay, but you can see once I was feeling more confident, I was able to go back and do this all in one shape instead of two shapes in the beginning. And just in case you want to remove any of the points, while you have the pen tool selected, just go on that point and then you can hover over it, and you will see there's a minus appearing on the point. So if you click on it, it will disappear. But in this case, now what you would need to do is, let's say you click on the direct selection tool and you click on these handles that we get from these curvatures. Now you would need to adjust it just a tiny bit, which is not that big of an issue. I think the more you get used to the idea that it will never come out completely perfect, so you would have to go and adjust it a little bit. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Doesn't mean that you're bad at the tool. Just means that we all can make like tiny mistakes. That's fine. Like for example, I go and change and alter these points all the time. I'm not shame in that, because that's how we learn. Okay. So next thing we'll do, again, we can use the pen tool. Again, we're going to make the stem using the pen tool. Starting from this point, I'm just going to use it as a pointer, not as a curve. Come here in the middle, drag. Come here on top, drag it out a little bit. Go down here, again, drag it out. Now here, we won't drag it out. We just want to click. We want to just click it once for a point. Then come to the middle again, drag it out, and come to the side at the end point again, and again I will drag it just a little bit. And again, I will if you click on this again, it will change it into a pointer, and then I can just connect it with a straight line instead of curve. And if you go to use the direct selection tool, you can also alter how your stem is looking at any point. If you also right click on the pen tool, you will have an anchor point. And the anchor point, if you click on that, it will change your point from like a curve to a point again and again, back to a curve if you drag it. So whichever way you feel like it's easier for you. And generally I just have it as like a curve if I need to. And instead of going and clicking on the anchor tool like how we did here, I will just select my point and I will just go on the right hand side and click on convert to either a point or a curve, smooth curve or like a point curve of a corner. So whichever way you find easier. I generally just go and select here, select the point and convert it here, because generally I just forget about the anchor tool. But the anchor tool is really useful if you kind of get used to it. So let me now change the colors a bit so we know that it is a cherry. And this is a stem. I'm going to give it a green color and set it back. And this one is icing, so I'm going to give them both an off-white color. And this wrapper, I might make it a bit more yellow, or maybe I will make it a bit more orange. And I might make the bottom icing a bit darker, just a little bit, so we can differentiate it better. So we're getting somewhere now. We're mostly done with all the shapes. The next shape that we will do is you see the, what do you call it, jam? Yeah, I guess you would call this the jam. So I'm gonna make the jam, and the last thing I would do is make these flakes. I think it's biscuit flakes, but I'm not really sure. Another thing that we will do is send this backwards, because in my original sketch I have it in the back and I feel like it's a bit too big, so I might decrease the size. So the jam that we're gonna make next is a bit darker in color, so I made it a bit darker. And then we're gonna start from the top here. Gonna extend the arm first, go down here, extend it again. Gonna keep it just above, if you can see. Let me change it to stroke. I'm just keeping it above the original icing, because if you think about it in the real world model, it will be a bit above anyway. Okay, so what we're going to do is just follow the curves roughly. You don't have to go exactly the same way that I have. Just make sure it looks like a drop of like something dribbling down an icing, which in this case is jam. I'm just gently following the curves, just extending the arms as we go down further. And then at one point I'm going to stop and then pressing Alt, so I will select this point back again. And then I'm going to go back above. Just following the same curvature line roughly. I'm going to try and make sure we remember that there are curves that we're following. And this is dribbling down in icing. Already iced cake. So there will be some difference in height. Okay, so now we have something ready. Okay, now we're gonna go to the direct selection tool and then move these points around. The reason I wanted you to be okay with moving the points around is so that you don't feel bad when some of the curves don't align exactly the way you'd like it to, because it's a very common process. Okay, don't worry about it. A lot of times, and I have this as myself as well, that starting out, I would feel bad for not having those perfect curvature lines, but you don't need to. As long as your final result showcases the design the way you wanted it to, it doesn't matter what your process looks like. You don't need to be perfect or a champion at one part while struggling at another. Just make sure that whatever you make, it is cohesively done. That is the most important. I might make it a bit thinner around here, and then make it a bit thicker as it goes down. Dribbles down. You can see that it curves down, so let's do that as well. So let's say we have made a mistake and we want this to now curve down again. So let's move the points up above. Okay, let's move this down so we reach this area. And then next we're gonna do is follow this curve again. This like just slightly, just so it looks like, yeah, it's going down the curve of our icing. So we're gonna select this, we're gonna move this just a little bit. I'm gonna increase. I'm gonna move the handle up to make it look a bit more curved on one side. And then next thing what I'm gonna do is end it around here. Pressing Alt, I will just move the arrow apart, so now it's two pieces. And then same thing, I'm going to do it here. Just gonna move the arrow apart to make it look like it's like cutting off just right here. And then it goes down. You can also just move this a bit slightly up, so when we have the curve going right here, it doesn't look too harsh. Okay, and then what I would do again is just maybe make this a bit more thinner. So thin dribbles generally mean that the dribble is a lot thicker. Maybe I will make it thinner around these points. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so it dribbles down, and then once it's dribbled down, it reaches this point. So we're gonna make like a puddle of jam around here. Just make it any shape you think works best. I think this is a point where you can just go ham with your pen tool, and then just remember, whatever you do, just send it back at the end. I think it's going a bit up, so I'm gonna just make it. And if you want, what you can do is similar to how we have made this. You can just go and make a copy of this and put it anywhere you like. Maybe smudge it up if you want, and if you want, you can alter some of the curvature lines as well. And the last thing I will do is make these crumble shapes, and I'm gone with the square shape, but you can actually go with any shape that you like. But once I make this one shape, I'm just gonna copy and paste the same shape all around the cupcake. Make sure you press Alt and then drag the shape, and then you can move it. Like you will make a duplicate of that shape, and then you can even move it anywhere that you like. I'll fast forward through this part, but simply copy, scatter it around randomly. And if you want to increase or decrease the size, you can do that. And don't worry about the coloring, we will change this in the next episode. The one thing I forgot to do is to make different sections for this part. So when I double click on this, it'll isolate this. Actually, you maybe just put it on another layer and then we'll fix that there. But I want us to make all these different lines so we can focus on that. Well, we're going to use the pen tool to do that. So sometimes when you hover over a shape with the pen tool, you'll get these points. So you can select these points because that's exactly the point of your shape. So I'm going to start from there, click there, and then just reach any point and just make a curve. Make sure you change the color a bit so you can see. And I'm going to use the direct selection tool to move it a bit on this side here. Okay. Similarly, I'm going to do all the different points here. Go to this, and then we just reach this point again here. Make sure that as you go down, the curve will slightly lessen. Okay. So if you want, you can also go back and then edit it a little bit. So what I've done is take one end and then moved it a bit so they're a bit equidistant at the bottom from one another. So yeah, based on what you are aiming for, you can adjust this as well. And similar to how we did it previously, I'm just going to select the whole thing, copy, and then paste it on the same point, and then make sure the selection is in the middle and then invert it. And then I will just delete the shape because we already have a copy of that. Now we have all the points at the same exact points on the opposite side. Now select the whole thing. Now click on the shape builder tool, and then just separate these parts out. So what we can do now is just alternate the colors. And anything with this shape, you can just delete any of the extra bits. And now just select the alternating parts, and then we will change the color a slightly to a darker color, and then you have our wrapper ready. And we'll make more changes to it in the next part when we add more dimension and color to it. Also, don't forget to put it back where it was, so you know, because the jam is right now behind the wrapper, just to make sure just you adjust it so it's in the correct place. So this was a brief introduction on how you can use the pen tool to make any illustration that you like. And don't worry about like using a tablet. You can always sketch it on paper and click a picture and bring it on your screen. And don't worry about like having your curves, having some crooked lines, because you can easily use the direct selection tool and even like other tools, which I will talk about next week briefly as well, and to help you smooth out your lines when you're using the pen tool or any shape if you have messed up anything, you know, because I use them all the time. So yeah, just like so let me know what you think of this video. I'm gonna do a part 2 for this next week, in which I want to talk to you about how you can add color to this illustration. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna color this whole illustration to make it look more dynamic, and there can be a beginner tutorial for anyone who is not sure how they want to add color to the illustrations. So I will just talk to you about some simple methods. I've already talked to you about how you can add highlights and shadows in other videos, but in this one we're going to completely color it from scratch. We're going to do the cherry, we're going to do the icing, we're going to do mesh tool, other gradients, simple gradients, just like shape builder tool as well to create some different shadows and all that stuff. And I will also show you how you can edit your shadows as well and edit your colors as well. So if you're looking forward to seeing that, let me know in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. I hope this is helpful. This was a really simple beginner tutorial because I know how it was when I first started out. The pen tool was such a nightmare for me, but once I started learning it with other tools, it just felt easier. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. I will see you next week if you want to join me when we color this illustration. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you later. Okay, bye bye.